Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth installment of the Metric Minute, brought to you by Vault Performance. I'm Kareem Derkawi, and this time we'll cover part one of two of concentric impulse, which is essentially the culmination of the entire jump preparation phase. In plain terms, impulse is a measure of how much force an athlete applies into the ground during any specific time period. Now, concentric impulse refers specifically to the force generated only during triple extension. We all understand how to find the area of a rectangle by multiplying length and width. This is nearly identical to the approach to finding impulse, which is a duration of time multiplied by the amount of force applied over that time. ForceDex collects 1,000 data points per second, and adding up all of the slender rectangles created gives a precise idea of concentric force output. The objective of the game is very simple: get the most concentric impulse possible in the shortest amount of time. The more force an athlete can generate while standing on the ground, the more power, speed, and jump height they will achieve. Imagine starting a road trip with half a tank of gas compared to starting with a full tank. The car with more juice will go further before it runs out. The take home message is that concentric impulse reports how much force an athlete generates during triple extension. Larger is better, but duration should be minimal to preserve quickness of movement, a favorable trait in many sporting contexts. We will discuss a couple more factors related to concentric impulse next time, but until then, please feel free to contact my colleagues and I at Vault Performance. Thank you.
The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some awesome practitioners who are always trying to evolve and continue to grow professionally throughout their career. The problem with many of us, though, is finding a new outlet, a new way, and a new perspective on the questions that we may have, whether it be programming, whether it be situational with dealing with coaches, or whether it be career advice. Because all too often what happens is we get stuck in with the same group of friends and the same group of colleagues that we reach out to for advice repeatedly over and over again. But what we should really be looking for is different perspectives, different people who have been through different situations who can help us make better decisions both for ourselves and our athletes. And one awesome place to start with that is the forums in the Strength Coach Network. In the forums in the Strength Coach Network, you'll be able to reach out and get feedback, input, and advice from coaches from all over the world, from everything from career advice to training modalities to programming. There's people there just for the same reason as you are, to try to get better, to learn, to share information, and to grow the field of strength and conditioning. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS to dive into all that great content today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network.
What's up, guys? Chris Hayes here, Coppin State University, stepping in for this week's My Thoughts Monday. Hope everyone is well and staying healthy and safe to the best of our abilities. And, just hoping that for everyone in college basketball, especially, that, they're able to continue to play and continue to stay positive and test negative, as the saying goes. But with that being said, man, what I want to talk about this week, just kind of a realization for me recently, and so as with many of my monologues, kind of a message for myself first and then for everybody else, is a reminder on what it means to have a growth mindset. Because to me, it's one of those things, saying that we're growth minded. I think as individuals and as a profession, it's just like, when you ask a player or a team, what's your goal this season? Oh, win a championship. Well, of course. Do you want to be successful? Of course. Do you want to go to the NBA or WNBA? Of course, right? So it's one of those questions that the answer, unless, someone is really trying to be funny or crazy, like, of course the answer is yes. And in this case, with being growth-minded, like, oh yeah, of course I'm growth-minded. But are your actions representative of and your habits, your actions and habits, are they representative of that? Because of course everyone wants to win, be successful, etc. But are you doing the things necessary to enact that and to make that happen, to make that come to fruition? And the realization for me came recently over just doing a continuing education course, specifically the chain reaction course from the Gary Gray Institute. Which obviously has been around for a while and has been very popular for a while and is particularly big in the basketball community, especially I think maybe over the past few years as we've seen its popularity grow in the NBA as well as college basketball. And, for me in my first year at Coppin State, I got there in November, right before the season started, so I didn't really have a ton of time necessarily to think outside the box. I was very much trying to keep it simple and just keep our guys healthy in season, and do no harm, as they say, because I got there about 3 days before the season started. So I preface it with that, but we had a collection of vipers, 4 pairs of vipers of different weight, um, in the corner of the weight room that the previous strength coach, Vince, shout out to Vince Williams, had purchased, when he was at Coppin State prior. And for the entire first year through the season, and even into some of our postseason or early off season, they sat in the corner and collected dust. And part of that was because, just to be frank, I didn't know how to use them. I could probably try to figure it out, but I really had no exposure with them before. And so I chose really to be ignorant and just say, oh, well, I don't know how to use them. I want to keep it simple in season. So there was that. But there was also kind of the secondhand reasoning for it was I always kind of had the notion that, the not 3D movement, obviously 3D movement is important for any sport, but the, AFS Viper stuff is kind of foo-fooey, kind of different, looked in some cases a little silly. And so as much as I pride myself in being open-minded and growth-minded, really for that first year and that first season, I was very much closed-minded because the Vipers, which are obviously a popular tool used within the 3D mindset, the AFS mindset, sat and collected dust. And it wasn't until I think that summer that our director of strength and conditioning, Matt Walker, had a conversation with me, probably a couple conversations, but one in particular where, he actually got one of the Vipers out and showed me some, a lunge matrix and showed me some simple things and talked about their benefits and their potential carryover to the court. And I was like, okay, yeah, this would probably be a good idea to build into some of our training. Not that every movement now is going to be AFS minded or specifically, incorporate a Viper. That's just a tool, and AFS, of course, is a school of thought to incorporate to any, to any training program. So I was like, wow, but I was like, wow, this could be really beneficial. Maybe I did our guys a little bit of a disservice this past year by letting them collect dust, but let's start to build it in. And from that point forward, started to build in the Vipers a little bit more. They became, I think I could say they became a staple of our training. Not that we were using them every single day or even necessarily every single training phase or period, but we began to use them regularly. And as I've, of course, learned more about AFS and gone through this chain reaction course and worked through the actual AFS course itself, the entire reasoning, philosophy, physiological approach, biomechanical, obviously biomechanics are a big piece of the approach and mindset and just how the human body is supposed to work and how it can work. That it has just totally opened my mind or reopened my mind to think about training in a way I've never thought of training before. And I can say for sure that going through some of this content will fundamentally change how I think about training. Does that mean every single thing I do is going to be 3D or AFS? No, of course not. I think AFS, just like FMS, just like PRI, just like, throw out any other organization or certification course, is a tool for the toolbox, but I wanted to share that because it just really resonated with me. And I was talking to another coach about it today. We're like, yeah, I was closed-minded to it basically for the first year that I could have been exposed to it. So I say all that to say, guys, just, again, I'm just using a personal example for myself that I realized and went through recently. But I hope that this conversation, can be a reminder, and maybe set off a light bulb for someone else. That of course we want to be growth minded. Of course we as a field, as a profession, we should pride ourselves in that. Anybody should, but let's just make sure that we're actually doing the things that growth minded and being open minded is about, and that means being uncomfortable, and I think that's the hardest part about it. And we talk about, of course, growth being outside of your comfort zone. And I think it's very easy, especially in the thick of a season, whether it be college basketball or professional basketball or whatever it may be. It's easy to get so narrow focused within the length of a season that Tina used to talk about this at Louisville. Like, we get caught in the weeds, um, and we never stand above the forest, and just see the big picture. Um, so again, just kind of prefacing or caveating with that, that certainly happens through the grind of a season. But when we're able to take a step away, whether it comes to Con Ed or even just networking, and being open-minded to speak with other coaches and be told, be told that you might be wrong, or maybe that's not the only way to do something or think about something. Um, I think that's so valuable, and we have to try to remember um, to not let that stuff fall to the wayside. So that's it. I hope everyone can take something from that. Jay's talk this previous week or two really inspired me to kind of add on to that. With we love to be questioned, or we love to say we're growth-minded, basically, but when we're questioned, we get defensive. So just kind of adding on to Jay's previous talk a week or so ago, and hopefully, this can be a valuable reminder for some people, and just continue to push us and urge us to be open-minded and to be um, to be that type of field and profession. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you to Jay as always for the platform, and I don't know if the sale's still going, guys, but go get your CVAPS manuals. They're awesome, and that's it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Stay safe. Thanks, guys. Take care.